The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Christiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs covering everything theater. And I'm here at the LTV studio in Wainscott with a very special guest, Ann Liguori, talk show host, president of Ann Liguori Productions, an author, and you're just a dynamo. I don't know what, you've been a dynamo since you got started and you haven't stopped. Thank you so
sweet
much
for having
coming.
me.
It's a pleasure. We've been trying to get you on for a while.
I know, and here I am.
And then COVID came and distracted us, and we just had a whole bunch of things.
I know, but here we are.
But you're one of the very first female sports talk show hosts.
Right. Well, WFAN Radio is the first all-sports radio station ever in the entire country. And it started back in 1987. And I was in my 20s at the time and was working at ABC Radio Sports Network. And WFAN was about to start. And nobody thought it would work, an all-sports radio station. But they asked me to host a weekly show there. And I was thrilled, Patrick. And the name of the show was Hey Liguori, What's the Story?
Oh, I love it.
And it was a weekly call-in sports show. Every night, every weekend evening, and we talked about everything: the Mets, the Yankees, the Jets, the Giants, the hockey, Islanders, Devils. So obviously in New York, there's so much going on, and so we always had plenty to talk about. And I did that show for many, many years, and now I do a show for them in the summer called Talking Golf. I've kind of specialized in golf and tennis. And then I've done television production and work. So
but you currently have a weekly radio show too, don't you?
I do. That's the radio version of Sports Interview, and it's on every Saturday morning, very early, 7 to 8 on WLIW, NPR's only radio station on Long Island. And we talk about all sports, and I interview different personalities in sports, and so tune in.
But your career, you've touched on so many people. Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Will Chamberlain,
I know.
Arnold Palmer.
The legends. I've had the opportunity to interview every major sports legend, it seems. I did a TV show called Sports Interview with Ann Liguori, and that show started in 1989, and Mickey Mantle was my very first guest. And, we just did it every week. That show aired for 17 years. Well, you remember Mickey Mantle's restaurant in Manhattan on Central Park South? Well, I used to go there a lot. They had a lot of sports receptions and events there. And I got to know the owners. And Mickey was there a lot when that restaurant first opened. And the owners there at the time, Bill Lederman was one of the owners. And I asked him, I said, listen, I'm doing this new show. It's called Sports Interview. I would love for Mickey Mantle to be my guest. And he said, I think I can help you, get Mickey to do it. And sure enough, he sat down with me, and boy, for a sports show, for our first guest,
That's
Mickey
phenomenal.
Mantle, oh my God, and he was such a great storyteller, Patrick. He cried when he talked about his friendship with Roger Maris and all the, different Hodgkin's disease in his family. A lot of his family died of that, and he was very, very open and very honest, and just a great storyteller. So it was a huge hit for the first show, and that show aired for 17 straight years on cable networks all over the country.
I have some pictures. Let's show some of the pictures. I have a picture of you working. I think this is with WH.
Yeah, now that is at the U.S. Open Tennis. You can kind of see the stadium there through the glass, but that's my booth overlooking the Arthur Ashe Stadium court. And I've covered tennis for WFAN every year since the station started in 1987, excuse me. But I actually covered the U.S. Open even prior to that for another network. So I've been going to cover the tennis for many, many years. And I saw Andre Agassi grow up on, the stadium court. You're a tennis player, I know. So, from Jimmy Connors to...
But that was a great way. He did grow up.
He grew up, long hair. Remember, he used to wear the denims. I used to call him the denim dynamo.
Yes.
So, and gosh, Pete Sampras and Roger Federer and just so many different players through the years. And what a great sports venue, really.
It's fabulous. I just want to show a couple more pictures.
Sure.
We have a picture here, the duo, the trio.
Oh, yeah,
Now, you interviewed all three of these people at different times in your life. Is that true?
Right, from left to right, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and Ted Williams. Now, Joe DiMaggio I got way before I started the TV show. He was being honored at the Downtown Athletic Club, way downtown Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
And Rudy Riska, the head of the Downtown Athletic Club, asked him if he would do an interview with me. Now, Joe DiMaggio did not do many interviews.
Imagine.
And you couldn't, and if by chance you had the opportunity to talk with him, you couldn't ask about Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
That was forbidden.
Right.
So of course I wasn't going to ask him about Marilyn Monroe, but I was going to ask him about his baseball career and looking back to tell some stories. And boy, that was a coup because very few people got him. And he was older. Very proud man. I remember he was coming off the podium, and and there were some steps, and I reached out to help him because he had been in his late 70s, maybe 80s, and I reached out to help him come down the steps, and he kind of batted my hand away. He didn't want a woman to help him come down the steps.
He probably didn't want anyone helping him.
No, but he was a little tough. He was a good interview, but very hard to get to come on the show, and then kind of irritable. But I was so glad I had a chance to talk to Joe DiMaggio.
How old is he then?
He had been in his 80s.
Yeah, because I would think what he'd been through, he'd be a little irritable.
Absolutely, he'd been through a lot.
And what he had to do it's just,
And he didn't know me, and he doesn't know what you're going to ask him. Of course, I would never ask him anything outside of baseball questions or sports questions, but he ultimately was a great interview, right? He was a great interview. And then you saw Mickey Mantle. I told you about Mickey Mantle. He was my very first interview for the Sports Interview cable show. And then Ted Williams, another baseball giant,
Icon.
Just a baseball icon. I was up in Boston in the late 90s. He had come back. He was in his early 80s, and he had come back to say hello at the All-Star game at Fenway. And I still can see he was in that golf cart waving to everybody as they were wheeling him around the baseball diamond. And I had the opportunity. He was ailing then. And his son, John Henry, said, Ann, if you come at 11 o'clock, set up your camera crew, he will have just gotten up from his nap, and he'll be very sharp. He'll give you, a good 45 minutes of material, which he did. His son knew him really well. His son ended up taking care of him later in his life. So I was just thrilled to get Ted Williams, just a baseball genius.
Now, let's see. We have a couple more pictures. I just want to see who else.
Sure.
I forgot who I selected.
Oh, Muhammad Ali. How do you like my hair? I was a brunette.
Let's take the picture down and just talk about Muhammad Ali, because you met Muhammad after his Parkinson had kind of advanced, and you were seated with him.
Yes.
And
that was in the late 90s, and
you shared some intimate things just a little while ago. Can you?
Right. So he had Parkinson's disease, and he couldn't really talk. So I didn't interview him as you and I would be interviewing somebody. But I had the honor of sitting next to him at the sports luncheon. And again, it was at Mickey Mantle's restaurant. There were a lot of sports functions and luncheons and whatnot at Mickey Mantle's restaurant back in the day. And just to have the opportunity to sit down next to Muhammad Ali and have lunch with him, I was thrilled. And he didn't talk much, but he talked through his eyes. I could understand him because, he communicated a little bit. But with the Parkinson's disease, it was hard to understand, and it was hard for him to talk. But I just felt that I knew exactly what he was saying just by communicating through his eyes. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Muhammad Ali. I think.
Just who isn't? I mean, the guy was just such an icon. And, I had the opportunity to interview every week. The show went on for 17 years, so I have over, 750 interviews, 22 minutes, and I own the rights to the entire archives, Patrick.
Oh, wow.
To every interview I've ever done, I maintain the rights to every one.
So what would you do with them at some point?
So I license them out now. ESPN will want 5 minutes of Arthur Ashe, or the Tennis Channel may want 10 minutes of Roger Federer. But I really want to do something more with them. I'm putting together my second book, where I talk about not only interviewing these icons, but the stories behind the interviews. There's always a story behind the story, as you know.
Right.
I'm picking about 30, 35 of my top interviews, and I'm working on a book about them.
And what will it be called?
Sports Interview with Ann Liguori.
Well, here's Ann's first book, is A Passion for Golf, which you wrote a couple of years ago, you said?
I did.
You know, and you also started a celebrity, Ann Liguori, a charity.
Charity golf tournament.
Charity golf
Well, first
tournament.
about this book.
22 years.
Yeah, let me talk about A Passion for Golf, because this book is a compilation of interviews that I did with celebrities. Not necessarily, there are some sports celebrities in here, but celebrities like Matthew McConaughey, Celine Dion, Smokey Robinson,
all
Alice
celebrities
Cooper.
that love to golf.
Exactly. not pro golfers, but
they
celebrities
love to golf
who
anyway.
love to golf. And using golf as a vehicle to get to know them was fascinating,
Right.
because we didn't talk about their golf games. We talked about everything else that they were doing, their success stories. And so golf is just such a great sport to get to know somebody. So anyway, so that is a compilation of all these shows that aired on my show called Conversations with Ann Liguori, that aired on the Golf Channel for many years. I was one of the originals on the Golf Channel.
I can't wait to read it.
Yes, you'll love it. Because it's not really about golf.
No,
it's really about who these people are and just what I learned about them while golfing with them.
Now, is golf really your first love?
It is now, yeah. Well, it has been for the last 15, 20 years. And as you mentioned, I've been hosting a charity golf tournament every year for 22 years. We just had the 22nd annual Ann Liguori Foundation Charity Golf Classic. We did it at Maidstone in East Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge success, and I was happy that we could pull it off during the pandemic, but everybody was very careful. Everybody wore masks, and they had all kinds of regulations, so it was, it was a little difficult to stage a tournament during the pandemic, but we were able to do it, and they were thrilled, and we raised money for cancer research.
Yeah,
so.
did
I was so thrilled about it.
When was it?
It was October 8th on my birthday.
So you just finished. You just had it.
We just had
happy
it.
Birthday to you.
Thank you. I know, I had a big birthday, and it was the only date that they had available. Normally we do the tournament in June. Mm-hmm. And so when they said, we'll do a few in October, would you like October 8th? I said, well, that's my birthday, but yes, it was so important to me to raise money for cancer research. I lost my dad to cancer when I was in college. And I lost my brother a year later to leukemia. So we were hit hard as a family, within a year and a half of each other. And so originally the American Cancer Society came up to me and asked me if I would host a golf tournament to benefit American Cancer Society. And I said, absolutely. And then it kind of grew into this, I put my own foundation together so we can help a variety of not-for-profits that really focus on cancer research, cancer prevention, cancer care, and so we're very proud of the work we do with it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for your losses too.
Oh, it seems like it was so long ago, but I think about my dad and my brother every day, and I can't do enough to raise money and awareness for these causes.
And getting to do it this year, the golf tournament was.
Extraordinary.
Because very few people could follow through with any of the things that they had planned to do. And it was one of the things I wanted to talk about, how we all coped during the pandemic. And you sound like you just came through in flying colors. So.
Well, look, I work out of my house anyway, mm-hmm. right? And so whether I'm working out of my office in Florida or my office in New York, I'm just very much isolated. I don't really, aside from, interviewing people like you interview people, I didn't really see a lot of people. And because I do a lot of radio, mm-hmm. a lot of my work is done with my own radio equipment right in my office.
In isolation.
In isolation. And ironically, I did cover the U.S. Open Golf at Wingfoot. They mm-hmm. did give me a credential, but there were no spectators there. And all these major tournaments, the U.S. Open Tennis Championship, no spectators. So it was very different in the sports world because none of these major golf or tennis events had any spectators, and very few even allowed media to go. So it was very different with the pandemic, and hopefully things will improve for 2021, but you just never know how sports will continue to be affected.
It's going to be a little while, I think, but I think we got through it. Originally, the swine flu, was it the swine flu that we had? When they had that. It's over 100 years ago, and it took a while.
Yes.
We just have to mask up and
social
on.
distance, do all the things that everybody tells you to do, and that's what we do.
And just keep doing it. Just keep doing it.
At the golf event, they put these plastic dividers in the golf carts.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And obviously you couldn't go in the clubhouse. We did everything outside. We even had our dinner, Patrick, outdoors at the beach club, which was beautiful, but it was outside. It was a little chilly. They had heat lamps, but it worked. It worked, and we raised a lot of money for cancer research, so we were thrilled.
Good for you. Well, we have a few more pictures.
Sure.
I think the next one is Will Chamberlain.
Oh, yes, look at that.
And Jim Brown.
Two of my favorite interview subjects, really. Will Chamberlain was so compelling, and that was in the Waldorf. That picture was taken. We had a suite in the Waldorf, and Will Chamberlain, was so tall that he literally, the Waldorf didn't have a lot of tall ceilings or doorways, so he literally had to bend his knees just to get into the suite. And he's standing up straight now, but just to get into the room. And it just shows the size difference, right? And he was.
How old were you there? You look like
I was probably in my 30s there. Again, I was.
You look like you're 21
oh, you're so cute.
or 19 even.
I know. But Will had opened up to me, and he was like 7'2".
You can take the picture down.
He was that tall as a teenager. He really grew fast, and he before he got into basketball. He was kind of psychologically damaged by his height. And, he'd go into a bus and he couldn't stand up in a bus. And, he'd want to give his seat to...
Did this come out in interviewing him?
Yes, this came out in my interview with him. It was the first time he really ever talked about it. And he just said, until he started playing basketball and making good money, he was, psychologically damaged, and I think he said, his self-esteem was very low because he was so tall. It's such a freaky tall
exactly.
at such a young age.
You are a freak a little bit.
Right, you're a freak, right? And he talked about that, and I just felt like, all these guests on Sports Interview just opened up and told parts. They shared stories that you never heard anywhere else. So I just think. The stories are timeless, even though a lot of these legends, Wilt has passed away and, Mickey Mantle has passed away. A lot of the guys that I interviewed when I was in my 20s and 30s, I got when they were quite old and, they're no longer with us, but their stories are
but you
ageless.
get such better perspective at that point. They really know who they are. They know
Absolutely.
what they've been through. You can have an in-depth interview instead of another moment off the cuff.
Absolutely.
What they're feeling. They've really died. And these people are people that live in the spotlight like that. They have to digest it.
And you know what, Patrick, they were so willing to tell their stories. None of them charged me, nowadays, if you want, one of the biggest athletes in the world, whether it's LeBron James you have to pay or contribute to their charity. Back then, I interviewed, not one person asked me for money to interview them, not one. They just wanted to share their stories. Of course, this was before social media and before everything, really. But they were great storytellers. And you saw the picture with Jim Brown. Jim Brown is doing well. He's been on my radio shows. He's been on my TV shows. I outdrove him in a long drive competition at a celebrity tournament years ago, which I can brag about now. But I did tee off from the forward tees, the ladies' tees. But
well, that's only a few feet, isn't it?
I know, but he obviously, we became good friends. But he did such great work. He started an organization called the American Program, teaching life management skills to gang members.
Wow.
In LA. So wait till you hear this story. So we were friends through all the times I had him on my show. And he said, I was in LA for business one year, and he said, do you want to come to my house in the Hollywood Hills? I'll be conducting an American program with all these gang members. Do you want to come and watch? And I thought, well, boy, how interesting would that be to see Jim Brown, talking to these gang leaders and members. And so I said, okay, I think I'll give it a try. So I park up there and by his driveway, walk down the driveway. There were metal detectors that you had to walk through. You had to check your weapons at the door. And I'm thinking, do I really want to?
You didn't have any, did you?
No, I didn't have any, but I honestly realized why he did that. But I thought, do I really want to go in here? Am I going to be safe? And it was really kind of very scary. But I went in and he was...
But did that feeling went away pretty quickly?
Once I got in there, because they were so eager to hear what Jim Brown had to say. He was teaching them about, life management skills and about being peaceful. They would go to him instead of the LAPD. And it was just fascinating to watch him talk to these guys.
That's an extraordinary story.
It was like they were eating out of his hand. They were just in awe of Jim Brown. And here I am looking at these guys thinking, all right, I know they just but killed other people on their block.
He found a wonderful calling for all of his energies and everything.
Right.
That's incredible. We're getting short on time. Let's see the next picture because I want to run through these pictures if we can. I want to talk about, this is you with Celine Dion, who is going to be featured, I guess, in your new book.
Right.
So do you have some story to tell about
Yeah, so Celine Dion. So I was one of the originals with my own show on the Golf Channel as well. And that show was interviewing celebrities who golfed.
Right.
And so years ago, I went to Montreal, and Celine Dion loved golf. And she and her husband, Renee Angelil,
You met him too?
I met him too. They bought a golf course so they wouldn't have to wait for tee times. So they literally bought a public course and turned it into their own private course. And they invited me up, and I spent the whole day with them. And it was so wonderful. How often do you get a chance to spend that much time with these megastars? And so from an interview.
On their own golf course.
Right, on their own golf course. And so here I was, getting to know Celine Dion and playing golf with her at the same time. And she took up golf because her husband was a diehard golfer, and she wanted to spend more time with him.
Oh, wow.
So she became a good player because there was another person in that photograph, a woman. That was a golf pro. She took her golf pro with her
She's here
everywhere.
Now. Put it back up.
Yeah. Oh, maybe you're seeing the camera guy.
Okay.
But her golf pro was in the background and went all over. Anytime Celine went golfing anywhere, the golf pro went with her. So Celine has a gorgeous golf swing. Just amazing, right?
So we'll get more stories on Celine in the new book.
Yes, well, Celine is actually in this book, A Passion for Golf. I have Matthew McConaughey, Celine Dion, I have Vince Gill, Amy Grant. I have all of these celebrities that I golf with in this book called A Passion.
So the new book is not. I got confused for a second.
The new book will come out, and that will be all the sports legends that I've interviewed.
I got confused backwards. I got it backwards.
That's okay.
So we have a few more pictures,
yes,
I think.
What else do we have here? Arnold Palmer.
Because I loved Arnold Palmer too.
The King, Arnold, was one of the founders of the Golf Channel, along with everything else he did. And, he was just such a legend. He did so much. He and Mark McCormick were the reasons that sports marketing, that term, even became a term. He was the first athlete to really, become a pitchman for all these products. And, he sponsored all kinds of he had all kinds of endorsements. Well, Arnold, if you're in the golf business, Arnold is just the guy.
He's the pinnacle.
And he's the pinnacle, the king. And I had an opportunity to interview him many times, but one of my most probably enduring memories of Arnie was just a couple months before he passed. I went to La Trobe and got to visit him in his office. And he was in his office signing autographs, which he did every day for 3 hours. Aww. He signed all kinds of memorabilia, even when he wasn't feeling well. And he got up, he kind of staggered a little bit and got up, he was not well. And he talked to me for 20 minutes. We had a lovely conversation, and I knew that he wasn't well. So I was happy that they were able to set up a meeting between Arnie and myself, a couple months before he passed.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we're almost out of it. We have very little time and a few more pictures I just want to run through real quickly. I want to talk about this because you have a jewelry line.
Yes.
Sand and natural elements and with rope design or something?
Yes, it's called the Hamptons Rope Collection, and it's just very stunning. It's sand from your favorite beach or golf course or any natural element. And I have the earrings on and the necklace, but you can send, it's called dunejewelry.com. You can send the company your sand in a little, plastic bag, or they have a sand bank with sand from all over the world, from beaches all over the world. Say you want sand from Positano to be put in a necklace or a bracelet, they'll have it. So you just go on their website, look under their sand bank, and then order whatever piece you want. They do. My collection is called the Hamptons Rope Collection, And it has a very nautical theme, and it's just beautiful. It comes in sterling silver and gold. They make cufflinks for men. They make necklaces, earrings, a ring, bracelets. So I'm thrilled to be able to collaborate with the owner, Holly Daniels Christensen of Dune Jewelry, and we've come up with this collection called the Hamptons Rope Collection.
And one more time, the website.
It's Dune, D-U-N-E, DuneJewelry.com.
DuneJewelry.com.
Yeah.
DuneJewelry.com. Check it all out. You're just an amazing lady. I am so thrilled to have had this time. We have a couple of minutes, and I have one more picture I want to show too.
Ah, you end with the best. I know you're a dog lover.
Well, I'm a dog person. You know, I wrote a show about my dogs
yes.
too. So, but this breed is one of the Gordins are one of my favorites. This is your dog. This is
Sky. That's Skyman, 14
who's
years old.
14.
Yeah, he's doing well, and I take him everywhere. I'm surprised I didn't bring him here. I would have brought him.
I wish you had him.
Yeah, he'd be all over licking you and hugging you. He's such an affectionate dog. But yeah, Golden Retrievers is a great breed, and I love all dogs. So I take him to the radio station with me. And that was on a shoot that I did. I was on the cover of Resident Magazine last year. And so I asked them if they would put a picture of, the picture with me and Sky, the dog, on the cover, which they did. And that was taken during that shoot. And, they just go everywhere with this dog. I just love this dog. He's my son.
I know, yeah.
You know how it is.
We're almost out of time. You'll just have to come back.
I'd love to.
We'll talk about other things you have. When you get your new book and talk about your new book.
Absolutely. That'll be my goal. I'll come on your show and talk about my new book. I have to get it done. I will.
Make yourself a deadline and see if it works.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. There's so many great memories, and I don't want these stories to be lost. Interviewing hockey players. Everybody from Gordie Howe to Wayne Gretzky, football players. Bart Starr and Brett Favre and Jim Brown, and there's so many stories I want to get out there. So I'm working on it.
You'll do it. Thank you again so much. This was just a pleasure to see you again.
It went fast.
It goes so fast.
It goes so fast.
Yes.
The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.